This is iDesign Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curator of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. iDesign Lab is your ultimate design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends.
Welcome to the iDesign Lab podcast. Our guest today has been shaping the digital world long before most of us even had an email. Erik Simons is a serial entrepreneur who helped pioneer affiliate marketing, built multiple companies that were successfully acquired, and has spent more than 25 years working with artificial intelligence, AI. Today, he is one of the world's leading AI experts, an international speaker, and co-author of a #1 best-selling AI book. Erik, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
In the studio.
It's exciting.
I know, it is exciting.
We've known each other a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go way back.
So you were building internet companies before Google became a household name. When did you realize this internet thing was going to change everything?
So it was in the 90s when I was in school, and it was just kind of obvious how it could connect the world together, and it was this new way to potentially do everything that we see it doing today. But at the time, nobody really. When I talked to people about the internet, they're like, "Oh, it's just a fad," and what would my business do on the internet?
Right.
There was like they couldn't even imagine what they would do.
You couldn't comprehend it. Yeah.
And now it's hard to imagine any business not on the internet or in some way connected.
When I had my grocery stores and they were first talking about the internet, I was like, "So what? What's that got to do with anything to do with grocery stores?"
Right, and it's funny. That was actually one of my first thoughts. It was when I was in high school, and it was a business class where I had to come up with some kind of an idea for a business and do a feasibility study on it, and my only job that I had, which actually to this day, the only job that I've had was I delivered Domino's pizza.
Did
I
you
was
really?
16 years old, for like a few months. And so I knew the delivery business, and I thought, with the internet, we could have like a virtual grocery store and do like grocery. So that was my feasibility thing, was basically like internet grocery delivery. But it was, people were like, that's ridiculous, So
Right.
Yeah, because that was in the 90s.
But one of the first things, if I'm correct, is credit card and processing in the internet or gambling. What was
the first thing that I actually got into?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was gambling basically. So
Beginning early stages before really anyone knew about gambling on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was, there wasn't much going on the internet at the time.
Well, it's funny because I even always tell people, I went through 4 years of college and never sent an email.
Right.
And I still remember the friends I was hanging out with, we would go on the computer that we bought for Word documents or whatever. And finally, once it had a hookup or what have you, it'd be like, oh, you can see what movies are coming out, but you couldn't buy a movie ticket.
Right.
So it's obviously you were at such a forefront of realizing the next steps of what was needed.
Right.
So how did you jump into the internet before it was really the internet?
So it actually came out of when I was doing these business ideas I had when I was in school that I started exploring. And so after that internet grocery delivery idea, then in another class or another project, I had an idea for doing basically a theme restaurant. A friend of mine in school, his dad was a wealthy guy, and he owned some restaurants, and he was like, "Hey, if you could come up with a theme, let me know." And I was fascinated by, I had seen in movies at the time, video conferencing. It was the kind of thing you'd see in Star Trek or whatever, but there was no video conferencing. And so my concept, I thought, okay, well, on the internet, so actually the concept was a theme restaurant where you'd have different locations and you could meet for a virtual dinner or lunch or something. So it was like a half table and a screen, and you would see the people at the other location across the table. And so I was like, okay, but how? So I actually called. I was in Canada. I called Bell Canada at the time, and I was like, how much would it cost to do video conferencing? And they're like, well, we have these like early demos of it, but we don't really have anything commercial. But it basically takes 8 phone lines to get the data across. And I was like, well, that's going to be expensive if you have these restaurants in different locations. And I went back to the internet because I realized that the internet was this sort of world thing where you could transfer data and you didn't have long distance costs. So I started looking at what technologies were available for doing video conferencing online at the time. And that just kind of led me down this rabbit hole where I just started to see all these opportunities on the internet.
I mean, it's so mind-blowing to me how fast the internet and the timing has caught up. Like,
Right.
I feel like time goes exponentially quicker now because of of the internet. I mean, maybe it's the
Absolutely.
internet, but I think so. I was watching The Brady Bunch, the first episode this morning with my daughter, who for whatever reason had it on when I walked out to the kitchen this morning. And I Googled, like, when did it start, that show? And it started like in the 60s, late 60s. And it just like, it dawned on me that like how back, like to me, like that doesn't seem so far back, but it's really like such a short time span of where we now today are.
Right.
And the fact that you could be a part of that is pretty.
I mean, it's amazing. I consider myself lucky to be like just the timing of it, the fact that I was really just
the
sort of starting my
pioneering of
career
it.
as this thing was starting. And yeah, so it was, the timing was perfect. But I mean, on that note, I think now what I see happening with AI, it really reminds me of that time with the internet, because at that time I knew that the internet was going to change the whole world in ways that most people then just didn't realize.
How did you realize that, or what made you think that? Where most people back then were just thinking that this might be just something that comes and goes.
To me, it seemed obvious, but it was also just because once you started looking into it and you could kind of see how this building, I mean, you could see there was people there and they were looking for something to do, and you could just, I mean, I don't know, the way my mind works, I'm always, looking for how you can apply technology to solve problems. And I just like the idea of just, online food delivery. It just seemed obvious to me that it would make sense to, it would be cool to be able to just go online and order this stuff, right? Because the internet just suddenly made these things possible, to bring all of this stuff to you. And so for me, it just seemed like a no-brainer. It was just obvious.
So going back to the beginning, you're involved in gambling online.
Right.
Where do you go from there?
So basically what happened is I ended up, and it was when I was researching my video conferencing technology, I ended up talking to some guys that they had built basically some gambling software, or they were kind of, they had started on that, and I partnered with them. And I helped them to market it. I created one of the first affiliate programs online. It was the first that I know of that actually paid a commission on a sale.
So for people who are listening who don't understand what an affiliate program is.
Yeah, so an affiliate program basically is, it's just a commission-based sales sort of a thing is the easiest way to think of it.
Okay.
And on the internet, it's really easy to track sales because you can just track when somebody clicks through to a website.
So if someone's clicking through from a website, that person could get a commission.
Right. And so with the casino, I saw that it was basically keeping around 85% of the money that was deposited into an account to play. And by the way, this is a reason that nobody should gamble. My advice is I'm not a gambler, and because it's something that you see not just in online gambling, but it's in Vegas casinos. So when you walk into a casino with $100, on average, $85 stays with the casino. It's not because the games are that badly weighted. Well, some of them are. I mean, some things like might only be 51, 52% like odds in favor of the house, like a blackjack or something. And then you've got like slots, which is the worst. But the reason you get to the 85% is because people tend to just keep going until the luck. So like when you compound those odds, it eventually turns around. Anyway, I'm going off on a little segue here. But so what I saw is that anytime somebody deposited $100 into the online casino, $85 stayed with the house. And so I realized that we had a tremendous margin to be able to pay out for the marketing. And so basically what I did is I decided, okay, we can give a nice healthy percentage of this to whoever sends this traffic. And so I created this affiliate program where if somebody sent a click to my casino and people deposited money, then we would pay them. And so very quickly, because this is early days of the internet, before there was Google AdSense or any of these other sort of advertising programs, if you had a website, there was really no way to monetize unless you were CNN. There was a couple websites that could charge high ad rates, CPM, just like for per view. But all these different sort of mom and pop websites that were popping up, they had no way to monetize. And so because my casino was one of the first way, I just very quickly grew because, they all joined my program. And what I discovered was that they were all getting their traffic from search, which this was even before Google had started.
A search engine type.
Yeah, it was Yahoo basically. Okay. Yahoo, Excite, Lycos, some of these names. I don't know if you remember.
Alta
Vista,
even around.
some of these
Alta
things.
Vista, I remember that one actually.
A moment of silence for all of those search engines. But anyways. So then I started to sort of reverse engineer what they did, and I became an expert in search engine optimization, and that led me into early artificial intelligence, which really just came down to automating of stuff, where I discovered, okay, if I can create a website and get it in a search engine, and that'll generate me X amount of dollars per month, then how about if I create 100 of those or 1,000 of those websites? Because, it was just creating. It's not like you had to go out and buy land. That was the great thing about the internet. You went and created land. So it's like whoever went and created the media faster. So
interesting to put it that way.
So basically I was just out there. I was obsessed with, okay, I'm just going to create media as fast as I can, faster than anybody else, and just flood search engines.
So creating websites, basically.
Basically, yeah. And so I created this, an automated system to just create websites. It was the full process from like buying a domain, acquiring the domain, and then, applying some basic design, although it was like, we didn't put any thought into it. It was just like pump this stuff out. Because basically as long as we occupied a position in the search engine, we were creating the land, and the land didn't exist. I mean, a lot of stuff you went to search for, there just wasn't results. So I was like, well, I'm just going to create a bunch of results, what I mean? And that's basically what we did. Yeah.
You fulfilled a void.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly from years ago, you were creating like hundreds or thousands of websites a month.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were doing, about 150 a day. So,
websites.
Yeah, websites.
And these websites, were they shopping? Were they information websites?
They were all kinds of things. So in the beginning, there wasn't, like when I really first started doing this, e-commerce, there really wasn't very much.
No.
People weren't buying stuff online. So the early things I was doing was, there was some like mortgage and financial offers, companies that were looking for that traffic. Because then I had to, only so many people would want to go to my casino. I didn't want to drive everybody there. I just realized that, hey, we have to find other people to buy this. Because now, again, there was no way to monetize traffic. I couldn't just go to Google. It didn't exist like a Google AdSense. So I had to figure out okay, great, I can get all this traffic from search engines, but how do I monetize it? Mm-hmm. And so there was a few companies out there selling insurance and mortgage that they created an affiliate program, sort of copying what I had done. And so now I was on the other side where I was selling them traffic, and I did that.
Is that lead generation or no?
Yeah, basically it was lead gen.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were paying me for a lead rather than a sale. Because there's different ways of affiliate marketing. You can do per click or per lead or per actual sale or a percentage. But anyway, so I ended up having all of this other traffic because, again, the search engines needed results everywhere and it needed to be filled. And one of the strategies I was using to make websites is I had a piece of software that I created that was searching the domain registry to see which domains were going to expire soon because they come up for renewal every year. And so then it would cross-check those to see if any of them already had a listing in Yahoo or like the search engines of the day. And if it found one, then it would put on my target list and another piece of software that would try to start registering that domain like once a second, when it was coming up.
So this is all automated stuff.
Yeah, automated stuff.
Which is, I know that you have always been very like
always thinking
intense
about like automation,
automating
yeah.
everything.
Yeah. But so basically what would happen is that software every night would end up buying a bunch of domains automatically. And in the morning I'd wake up and I'd see this list of domains and I'd have to think of, okay, what am I going to put there? Because it was a wide range of stuff. And one interesting story, I was living right here. I told you, Scott, I was living right across the street from the studio here, the Waters, when I first came to Florida. And this is like late 90s. And I woke up one morning and I had acquired these 2 domains. I can't even remember what they were called, but they were basically in the number 1 and 2 spot of Yahoo, which was the big search engine domain, for caskets and urn, basically funeral stuff. And I was like, what am I going to do with this traffic? And so I go to the phone book.
But you think about it, that's probably really good traffic.
It was. But anyway, so I go to the yellow pages because it was still yellow pages in those days, right? Late 90s. And I look up, okay, locally here in Delray Beach, I found like somebody that sold caskets. And I found a place just around the corner here. And there was like an old couple and they had like actually I think it was here on Congress and they had a little shop like selling the caskets and urns and stuff, and I went to them and I said, hey, have you heard of the internet? And it sounds like a fad, and I said, well, I happen to have a lot of customers that would be interested in your thing, and would you be interested in partnering if I sold you a customer and you just give me a percentage of the sale? And they said, yeah, okay. They didn't really take me seriously, I think, but I convinced them, okay, give me a catalog and I'm going to scan the pictures, put it up on a website.
Unbelievable.
And give me a number to call when there's an order. And so they went along with that. I went and I scanned all the pictures, and it was amazing. I discovered there's this casket business. They have all like 1,000 different designs they've got for Harley fans with the tassels, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Which is the interesting thing about the internet. I've had the benefit of discovering about a lot of other businesses because I've touched all these different things. But anyway, long story short, I put up the website. And the next day, this old guy, he calls me and he says, you got to make it stop. I said, what do you mean? He's like, they're calling me all night through the night. I'm like, well, I told you I was going to send you customers. And he's like, yeah, but I can't sleep. I'm like, did you give me your home phone number? He's like, yeah, like, you got to make it stop. And so, yeah. But it was interesting. But I mean, great markups. The trouble with the casket business was the delivery. It always has to be like, quick delivery, and it's expensive delivery, which eats up the margins. Some
heavy.
things aren't the best at. That's when I learned that delivery is a big thing in determining what works on the internet and what doesn't. Of course, Jeff Bezos has sort of solved a lot of that since with
Amazon
logistics. But anyway, interesting times.
So at some point you jumped into automotive. And automating like for video and so forth.
Yeah. So basically I realized again that, look, the internet is sort of this new form of media. And the early days, it was all like, message boards and text based. It was all reading. But I realized that eventually, I remembered from school that if there was like a book report, everybody would, if there was a movie version, everybody would prefer to watch the movie than read the book. Like, some people love to read, and I like to read, but a lot of times, rich media, you can't beat it, right? And so I knew that rich media would come to the internet. And so I realized that the same thing that I'm doing, creating websites, eventually there's going to be a lot of rich media needed on the internet. And what does that mean? It basically means that you're going to have something like a search engine, but for videos and this other media. So basically what YouTube is. But this is a few years before YouTube came out. And so basically I started creating a process to be able to do the same thing I had with automatically creating a massive amount of websites, but doing it with video. And so I created a company or software to do that. Again, this is sort of early AI automation. And then when
wasn't it a lot because Google was coming out then, and Google had an algorithm that basically, if you had a video, you're selling a car, that video would only kind of rank one time. But if you could take that video and turn it into 30 different other videos, it would kind of fool Google.
Well, it wasn't. So partly it wasn't so much about fooling Google. It was that they needed. So the internet was a place where it made sense. People are looking for something specific when they're looking for media. So if you make a TV commercial, you need to make something that's a little more of a one-size-fits-all that appeals to everybody, right? But with the internet, when somebody goes to search something like Google or YouTube, they're looking for something specific. So it makes sense to give them a more specific result, not just try to show the same one-size-fits-all video to everybody. So basically what I realized is, and that was part of the software that I created to automate this, is to take from, let's say, like one larger video or a whole bunch of footage of a car, to take that and then create 1,000 smaller videos where each video is focused on a specific thing to appeal to a specific consumer, and then put all of those in the search engine so that when you search for something specific, you would get the more specific media.
Right.
So was this like if somebody wanted to buy a new car, you would go to this search engine for cars?
No, this was just the whole purpose was to get this media in Google or whatever search engine was the search engine of the day. What I realized was that there was going to be something like a YouTube. And again, YouTube wasn't the first. There was a few before them. So when they started popping up, I didn't know YouTube was going to be the first or the biggest. So I was uploading everywhere, like to, the Rever and all the different, like Daily Motion, all the different, again, may they rest in peace. All of
it's
those
so crazy how like somebody, the survival of the fittest.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so I didn't realize it was YouTube, but I was, when YouTube started, in the first week they opened, I was uploading videos there, and because they were just another one that was popping up on my radar of a place to distribute media. And basically, so no matter anywhere somebody searched for something, I just wanted to have some media.
So you were providing content.
Basically content, yeah.
So you were content creating
I mean, you could say that. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
So you've launched, there's so many different companies that you've launched and you've sold successfully. And they all have to do with programming. Are you a guy that's actually sitting there writing the code?
No, that's not.
You're finding the people to write the code but giving them all the direction.
Yeah, that's the latter is definitely me. I mean, I understand sort of how software works, but I definitely am not the guy to sit there and write the code. Thankfully, now we can all write code with vibe coding, right? So that's
with AI.
Yeah, with AI, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, but you've been working in the world of AI for 20 some years.
We all just thought it popped up, a few months ago or so.
Right. It's interesting because it depends. I mean, obviously, what we think of now or what everybody thinks of as AI really has only been around for a few years. I mean, 2018 to be specific is when they created this new technology which powers the ChatGPTs of the world.
And is that like the quantum computer? Or
no, that's something else. Okay. The thing that was invented, that's still to come, which is a whole, that's going to change the world as well, Tiffany. That's a whole other story.
What do you mean by that?
Quantum computing?
Yeah.
Quantum computing is... It's a next level thing which they're working on, but nobody's perfected it. But when they do, that's a whole other. Quantum computing relates to like quantum physics, where basically it's like particles exist in many places at the same time. I mean, it's really mind-boggling stuff.
Yeah, mind-bending.
And now they're creating computers where they can basically do that. So and it changes the game where suddenly it can compute like billions of times faster. Sorry, my mic. Sorry, audio. It's just gonna be so much faster that, for example, every encryption will be able to be broken instantly. Like Bitcoin would be able to be like cracked by a quantum computer, almost instantly. So that's a whole other. We could go off and talk about that for hours.
I've heard. I have no idea if it's true. Like, there's eventually going to be computers that are coming out that don't have chips and whatnot. It's liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it's the kinds of things that they're coming out with. It's hard to believe that a lot of it's true, but it's amazingly a lot of it is. But yeah, so what we think of, just to back to your question, Tiffany. I mean, the AI that's been around in the last few years that people sort of think of as AI is this chatbot stuff. AI has actually been around for a long time, but in the early days, it really was all more about automation. So it looked very different. It was more about like automating a process, whereas now they have these what they call LLMs, which is really like thinking more like the human brain. Which it's a whole new thing that's really only been around now for less than 10 years. And that changed the game for artificial intelligence.
And I feel like it just comes so far so fast. The rate at its growth is,
and it's only accelerating.
Right. I mean, and that's what for me is kind of hard to comprehend it all. Like all of a sudden now ChatGPT is like a huge, or whatever one you want to call, but is a huge part of our daily
Everyday life.
It is. And it's not
in the
we're
last
not going
year
back,
or so.
right? Yeah. And again, that's getting back to what I said before. I really see the same thing happening with AI, what I saw happening with the internet. I mean, if you go back to the early 90s and you would try, if I told you about how things are today, it would just be hard for a lot of people to imagine, and even just the cultural shifts about if you were talking at that time and you said, in the future, people are going to sit around at dinner and they're just going to be looking at their phones. They're not even going to talk to it like each other anymore. You'd say, nah, people aren't going to change like that. I mean, you can tell me some technology comes along, but people aren't going to change like that. But like, if you look at how much people have really changed because of this technology, it's amazing. And I really think AI is going to have as big or bigger of a change, So.
And and I feel like that's a good question or a good statement that obviously we had concerns when the internet, we had concerns when the TV, it's like every little part of progress, poses its new concerns, especially as parents, as business owners. You're looking at it from a different lens, in my opinion, because all the possibilities of it that I don't necessarily comprehend in my everyday world.
Well, you're looking at it more like in the future.
Right. Well, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to be an optimist, but, the concerns, there are a lot of concerns and they're definitely valid. We should have concerns because we need to use caution with everything for sure. And so there are two sides of it. And I think, there has been with every technology, right? Even TV that probably had effects. I'm sure it had a lot of effects on society. So this will definitely have effects as well, positive and negative. So, we have to use caution for sure.
So where do you see the positives? In a lot of podcasts and business podcasts I enjoy listening to, there's a lot of positivity towards it, but like you said, with guidelines and guide rails, do you see that happening in business growth, or is it going to put a lot of people out of business? What are your thoughts on?
You have concerns? In 3 years from now, 5 years from now?
I have concerns. To be honest, my biggest concern is the empowering the bad people.
Mm-hmm.
The power that AI can give to some of the wrong people in the wrong hands.
And what do you mean by that?
Just because it's such a powerful tool, and you already see. You can see scammers can use it because it can imitate voices so well, right? So it can make calls and trick elderly people, let's say.
Right, and
but even more so than that,
Yeah.
forget about just a call. Creating people, artificial.
Right.
So even getting a video, you think you're talking to someone on your phone.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not a real person.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like now, the video isn't. It's still, you can still kind of tell, but it's moving so fast that in the next couple of years,
deep fakes.
It's gonna really be hard to tell what is real and what is not in the near future for anybody, and that is a scary thing if you think about who is creating that, that version of reality that you're seeing, and just making sure that's not bad people, right? So that is my biggest concern. I think is still people, not that the technology itself is going to for some reason decide that it needs to harm people.
Terminator?
Yeah. But I think there's also confusion there as well. Because sometimes, again, that's where you have to use a lot of caution, because if you give an AI some assignment, we've seen some examples of that recently, where if you give it an assignment, which might be something that there's no harm intended, but for it to complete that assignment, it needs to then do something which might cause harm, right? And that's the danger is even if somebody gives AI a task that isn't meant to do harm, but the AI, in trying to find ways to just at all cost, solve that, they do something bad.
Right. But I've found that pertaining to AI, like ChatGPT, I find ChatGPT not to be as good as like Claude. I find using Claude, I can get more realistic, real results. Where I find with
is Claude a sponsor of
ChatGPT,
this podcast?
no, but I find with ChatGPT that I find it makes mistakes. Then I go back and I question that I found that what you just told me is incorrect.
Right.
And it then tells me, oh yes, you're right. I'm sorry. And so it questions me, going,
yeah.
am I getting
Well, the
real
hope is
truth
that-
or real correct answers?
I would
Right.
say
Because I
that-
have to go double check it.
Right.
But I find with Claude and some of the new platforms of Claude, it seems to be getting better and better. So I find some are better than others.
Yeah.
So since our audience includes a lot of designers, creative types, entrepreneur types, like we're talking about AI, how can they use AI as a strength?
Oh, wow. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things. It's so, first of all, as a tool, right? So I would first look at any business and look at the things that are sort of tedious
Yeah.
that you could automate, right?
Makes sense.
So that might even be sort of back office stuff. It might not be like design specific things, but just organizational things in your business. And you know, I don't, obviously you're an expert in the design business. I don't know, you know, the insights or the details of running that, but in every business there's some things that you know, you could definitely automate with AI, which just improves efficiency. And I think it can free up a lot of time for creativity. A lot of people are worried about AI replacing jobs, and it will. I mean, you know, the fact is it will replace some jobs, but it will also free up a lot of time
For
doing
people to be
tasks,
creative.
tedious tasks that you probably don't even want to do, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's going to free up people's time to be more creative, which I think especially as somebody in the design business. I don't know how much you're bogged down, Tiffany, just by the business
for
aspect,
sure.
but sometimes it makes it difficult for you to like, you know, like
Without a doubt. And I'm still like an old school the way I'm not a huge like computer savvy individual.
Right.
So like I feel like AI could obviously definitely help me become a little more savvy in
Right.
getting my things organized.
And AI is really good at learning patterns and then just kind of like, you know, like repeating that in a way or giving you. So I think there's ways that it can, it's not necessarily like that AI can be more creative than a human, but it can just sort of remind you of a lot of versions. Like if you ask it to, you know, just show me like a bunch of versions of this, it's an easy way. Like sometimes if I'm trying to think of a name for something, in theory I could think up names myself, but if I ask AI to, you know, give me 10 names and then it
Right.
helps me as a
Yeah.
brainstorming sort of
Right.
tool. And I think you could apply that to design as well. You know, so.
It's so crazy to me. Like, do you think like, I don't know, I hear people saying, oh, I'm creating an AI,
Uh-huh.
an AI assistant. Like, how does somebody go about doing something like that? I mean, are they using a ChatGPT platform? Like, there's people I hear like through podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
they create
I'm
their
working
own sort
on
of
my
AI.
own AI. Like, how does
What do you mean by that?
they are working on, I don't know if it's a software. If
Yeah,
it's
well, I
an
think that's the
app.
question.
That's my
Actually,
question. I
so
don't
what
know.
does that
Like,
mean?
how do people say, "Oh, I'm working on"?
Yeah,
an
yeah,
AI?
and
Like,
I guess a lot of they could be referring to different things. I think that there's starting from sort of the easiest version of that. There's you know, you can go to ChatGPT and sort of make your own custom GPT, right? Where you
you're
give
training
Yeah,
your own chat.
Yeah, basically you give it some documents and then it'll refer to those or use those as the context when it answers. But then there's people who take it to, you know, a different step where they create a full AI version of themselves, right? Which is something you can definitely do now. I mean, you can clone yourself from right like down to your voice, your look, and then it's a virtual version of you, right? And you can train it on how to think, which is it's called the prompt, right? So you prompt AI, and you
What
can,
would someone be using that for? for social media or?
Yeah, I mean, you could use it. It just a virtual version of you to correspond with people so that you don't have to, basically, right? To answer on your behalf. So you could use it for a bunch of different.
Because I have heard like people have like a chat GPT that goes through their emails. Mm-hmm. Or not a chat GPT.
Well, yeah, so that's
like
something a little different.
Like,
So that's when you have, something that's more of like an agentic AI. There's all these different variations of AI, right? And people, I can see how it's very confusing. And now, like, again, with the internet, like if back in the 90s, if you said something like email, probably most people would say, what's that? You know what I mean?
Right.
In the very early 90s, right? Whereas now it's just like, it's like a term probably in the dictionary at this point.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these AI concepts to AI people seem like, just regular stuff. It seems very foreign to people. And so AI, there's a lot of different types of it. ChatGPT is basically a chat bot, right? So that is meant just for you to sort of talk to and get a response.
It's so crazy.
But then you've got these different types of it's agentic AI, where it's agents that can actually go and do things. They can go and what we call it using tools, which means it can go and like actually make a phone call. You give it a tool to use with something like a Gmail, and basically you can allow AI to work with any software that a human can, AI can do. So you can give it a job to do. You can create an automation where you say, okay, every morning I want you to check my email and, basically respond this way to some people in my, using my voice, the way I would respond. And then I want you to take any like meeting requests and add it to my calendar automatically, or check my calendar, confirm it, and then add it there. And it'll just do all of that stuff.
That sounds like a lazy person.
Yeah.
Well, it is clearly making us all a little more, like, I feel like it's streamlining everything. Just like email streamlined, now like the internet streamlined, and now we have
right, and it's going to change us as people, as I touched on earlier. I think it's really going to change us, even like the way the internet has already changed us. I mean, look at how we are now with delivery, and it's amazing. Like, just nowadays, when I order something from Amazon, and it's like it'll be there by midnight.
Yeah.
Like, what are you kidding me? How's that possible?
It's wild, and it's like so wild for obviously the next generation who didn't know life before even this type of
I'm mind boggled by it. Like, I ordered some lemonade things for the house today, and it said it would be here by 3:00, and I was ordering it 8:00 this morning, and I immediately think of going back to my supermarket days. Is that some person's going to drive up our driveway with the 4 little packets, which are probably $15. And I would say to myself, I was saying to myself this morning, like, how are they making money? Because for that person to drive to our house to deliver, it makes no sense. Yeah. But I guess, it's all based off of volume.
Massive volume, because everybody uses it.
Well, I had like a crazy experience where I ordered something off of Amazon, and it was not what the picture was. It wasn't a proper representation or whatever. And so I was like, I want to return this. And they're like, keep it and we'll refund you. I'm like, this is not a good thing in the world to have like this much excess that,
Absolutely.
You're just
what I find more fascinating about AI is something that you and I were talking about a week or so ago. You were telling me a story that you created a program for, I think, a family member that has cancer and needs to take 30, 40, 50 pills a day because of doctors and whatnot. And the member of your family is having a hard time remembering. And I think about my father, who has heart problems and conditions, and he's got a tray of probably 50 pills he takes every day. But you've built a program using AI glasses that the glasses tell your family member it's now time to take the pills. And
well, it can do it in many ways. Actually, it would be great. So what I realized, when you look at, especially older generations, they a lot of times they don't even want to use mobile phones, which I understand. But the great thing about AI is that it can actually, because it now is great with voice and it can use a telephone, You know, I was able to make the AI that can just call to, you know, to remind and say, hey, now it's time to take your medicine, and you know, talk somebody through that. So I think the benefits, especially for older generations of AI, is going to be amazing. Not just in medicine, but in helping them with loneliness. You know, because it can really be an amazing companion.
It's crazy.
And I think we talked about maybe this
That's
idea.
Really good idea.
Yeah, well, no, it was another idea that I had, which we talked about, which is basically if you have a companion, like an AI that is a companion for an older person, because I mean they love to talk and tell their stories, right? And so they're a perfect match because AI loves to hear and loves to listen, and it's great at saying, okay, tell me more. And
well, I guess that's why the robots are coming out.
But so there's another amazing benefit from this is once AI learns their stories, it won't forget. So as that older person starts to forget, they can actually ask the AI and say, hey, can you remind me that friend of mine from school? What was their name again?
That's amazing.
And the AI will know every story that they've told. The AI will be able to tell them back and help them with their memory. And then you could use that to like create a story, like a book for the grandchildren about, you know, that.
I mean, that's
person.
Amazing. Everybody's going to have a generational robot in their house.
Yeah. So again, I mean, right there, that's an amazing business opportunity. If somebody isn't doing that, then they definitely should.
You just give me the idea for a few of them.
Absolutely. And so I think AI, I mean, for all, there certainly is going to be an amazing amount of opportunity, not only in how it can help people, but the business opportunities in making those happen.
So how would you suggest somebody go about making it happen?
To create an AI business like this?
To like be able to, like, I know we're having that conversation regarding design business and, you know, like obviously we know you, so it's like we get to like call you to ask for some help. But I mean, with other people having these creative ideas, like how does one even begin?
I mean, nowadays I would say, you know, you can actually ask AI to help you make pretty amazing prototypes. You know, you can just go to something like Claude and just say, hey, I have this idea.
Unbelievable.
So really my answer is go to AI. And ask AI to help you build the AI. And it's just going to do an amazing job of doing that. At some point, you're probably going to need to have somebody technical to sort of help you a little bit to sort of connect some pieces in there. But to get started, you'd be amazed at how far you can get just going and asking AI.
So is AI connected to the internet?
It is. Well, it can. So,
or is it its own?
So it's a very interesting question, Tiffany, because it's the AI that most people think about absolutely is online. I mean, something like ChatGPT is online. Now, in the future, you're going to see more and more of what they call edge models, which means running AI on a local device. And there's obvious reasons for that. Number one, privacy, security, you know. So most AI that you see out there is online, you know, but there is AI that operates offline, and more in the future, there will be more of that.
For what reasons? So it'd be on
security, privacy
on a computer that's not connected to the internet.
Yeah. Like some of the projects I'm working on now for some large corporations where they want to keep their data secure, and so they demand that the AI models we work on.
Security.
So it's like an intranet.
Right, and also so that it can work offline. I mean, in theory, in the future, it'll be connected everywhere. And I mean, you almost are now with satellites and whatnot. But you know, sometimes your coverage is not great now in reality, and so it's nice to make sure to know that you have a model that you don't have to depend on that connection. That's sometimes the reason. But I think that the main reason in the future is going to be for privacy and security. Also cost, because every time you use the internet online, you are using well, you're basically paying a company for them to pay for the compute because they're running all these servers and compute, which is expensive. If you run it locally on your own, phone or whatever, like some of the things that we do in our solutions, then you don't have to use those big data centers.
So these huge data centers that there's a lot of talk
There's a
about,
lot of talk, yeah.
that are being built around the United States and around the world.
There's controversy.
That are, in some cases, that are acres in size,
Yep.
using mass amounts of power and, from what I understand, water, where lots of cities and towns are opposed to it. What's the purpose of those? Why are they so massive? Why are they so
because
expensive?
AI requires what we call compute, which is just these servers, these computers to process all this information. And so that requires electricity to run these servers. And the thing is, when you run these servers, then they get hot. And so then you need to cool them. And which is one of the reasons. It's interesting because some data centers, they're built in like cold places where they then actually use the heat to heat the town, So it's, but in a warm place, then you got to pay for the air conditioning and whatnot. Some very smart people now are working on putting data centers in space because then we won't have to deal with, out there it's cold and you get electricity from the sun and
data centers
in space. So that's kind of the latest thing everybody's working on.
Makes sense.
Thing is, so it absolutely makes sense. The only thing holding it back right now is the cost of launching payloads to space.
Right.
So it's just kind of starting to make sense now, but as the cost of that comes down, so that's, again, 10 years from now, we're going to see that's going to be kind of what you see most of. But in general, the date, like if you go to today, we need those data centers for the internet, and I
and that's
completely,
like a temporary situation, essentially. We're building.
Well, if the space thing works out, but I think. And I understand the concerns of people that I wouldn't want it in my backyard. I think
Why?
Well, I mean, I can see how it can be just disruptive, right? Yeah, in some ways.
The noise too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they have complaints that I don't even understand because I'm not going through it personally. But what I can say is that it's important as a country strategically to have these, right? Because if we don't like. The future, the way or countries compete and companies as well, it's going to come down to sort of the amount of capacity you have to compute AI, because that's who's going to have the more powerful AI, and whoever is the most powerful AI wins. So, having these data centers is sort of like, having oil in a country. It's going to be that sort of like
an
power
enrichment type of thing.
Yeah. So I think it is important. That said, I guess there's no space is the perfect place to do it. But until then, I understand people's concerns.
So we've obviously chuckled a lot about like a few years ago. What do you think that like is going to be the future of like 10 years? What we're going to be laughing about with AI? Like, oh, can you believe like we were worried about this?
Oh boy, I don't know.
Or what it would even make more valuable.
I hope we're laughing about all the stuff we're worried about now, but yeah.
So in all these different companies that you've launched, and quite a few of them you've sold very successfully, is there anything that you've ever launched and looked back going, oh my God, what did I ever do that for?
Oh, failures, you mean?
Yeah. Well, it didn't pan out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, more than panned out. Like any entrepreneur, I think.
Right.
That's,
and you have to be comfortable with that.
Absolutely. And that's learning, right?
Yeah.
That's the learning process.
Yeah. And I always say that's such an important lesson for get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially in like technology, because there's so many ideas and so many things that you just have to kind of try, like, and you don't know until you try.
Correct.
So, but if you don't try, then like, Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Right.
Right.
So,
yeah.
It's crazy. So as we talked about AI and design, we've had a couple podcasts with some design-based companies that are creating AIs, as we've discussed, like to help designers and help their businesses. Like, do you ever see AI itself becoming creative enough to be a designer? Like,
It's interesting, and I guess it depends how you define creativity. It's like just before we started this, we were like, how do you define design, right?
Yeah.
Again, AI is very good at recognizing patterns, and then it can sort of give you these different variations of that. And it's interesting because I've seen a lot of people debating this, obviously, lately about how, this question about is if AI will replace the creativity in humans. And there's an argument that even humans, when we create something, we're kind of like going back to things we've seen, and we're like because it's inspiration, I guess is the word, right? Well, like we all take inspiration, right?
Correct.
So creativity,
that's kind of
creativity sort of requires inspiration from somewhere.
that makes sense. We're just repeating it, and
so there's the argument that AI basically is doing the same kind of thing we
that
do.
We did, yeah.
So, but again, I guess it depends how you. I know a lot of artists out there will argue that no, it's and maybe there are some kinds of like creativity that somebody's got to start it somewhere, right? It's like
I feel like I feel like in a positive way. I feel like what we've seen with the internet, like with entertainment, with TV and stuff. I feel like that we will sort this out, and it's like you said, keeping it out of the hands of the bad actors, really. Right. I feel like the good will prevail, and like we will use it to enhance our society, hopefully.
Right.
And, just give us more free time that our very busy, noisy world has kind of taken away from us.
Yeah. And I think the good news is, at least I hope, that people will always still want human connection, right? I mean, I know in your business, you develop great relationships with your clients, right?
Very, very hands-on.
And I think that's a big part of what you and probably a lot of other designers do, which I don't think AI is going to replace anytime soon. Right. So people don't need to worry about that. I think people are always going to value that human connection.
No, I agree with that too. What about AI with school?
I think it's going to have actually. Well,
don't you have a company that's in education? Or?
Yeah, we've done some stuff with that. I think it has definitely some positive impacts in how it can teach people and how it can help to teach. I think it's. I'm not sure how it's going to have an effect on students in general in terms of how it affects maybe making them lazy or like not need to think or be like
accountability.
The same as they used to. So I'm really not sure what kind of effect that's going to have.
I think it's going to have a bad effect.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, from an education standpoint. So a student is relying on AI to do more of the work.
Well, there's going to be less that we need to do. A good friend of mine who's he's big in education, we had this discussion a few years ago actually about will it be necessary for people in the near future even to be literate? Like, do you need to read or write?
Mm-hmm.
Because if with AI now, the voice is so good that as we go into the next few years,
you don't need to read a book.
Yeah, because and a lot of the interaction you have with things will be by voice. You'll be able to, and you could just tell AI, you could basically dictate and it'll write it for you, right? Or you can say to it, just read me this, and it'll read it out to you. So in theory now, you don't need to read or write. And in fact, it's empowering people more because of all the different languages, which is something that occurred to me when we were having that discussion. Is the interesting thing is, even if you're literate in one language, you're still illiterate in every other language, right?
So there's a whole level of more growth.
But now AI can basically make us literate in every language, and we don't have to learn to be literate in any language because it can just read it to us, right? And so that means that moving forward, people don't need to learn to read or write. And so in a way, is that a good thing or a bad? You could argue both ways, right?
Correct.
But it definitely is sort of making us dumber, right? So lazier and dumber, I think.
I feel like that's where
But some people maybe like to be lazy. So.
Well, this is where like the stronger survive. The more you continue to educate yourself by reading books and also being technology savvy.
Right.
I mean, we just came back from Italy for 2 weeks.
Right.
And because of you, I went and bought everyone in the family Meta glasses.
Right.
And I think I used it more than anyone in the family because I've been using Meta glasses now for like 3-4 years since you first told me X many years ago. And I love them, taking photos, everything, my phone, whatever.
Except all my pictures have my hat. And
Well, that happened to me when I first started doing it a few years ago with the baseball
Oh, you can
cap.
see where he's really looking now. Right. The hat hanging
My
from
hat,
I got you.
But she learned, so now next time she goes somewhere and starts taking pictures, she's going to know to either lift the hat or take it off.
Yeah.
But I used it every day, my glasses, for everywhere we went. If someone was speaking Italian, I could understand exactly what they were saying.
Yeah.
We went through a tour through Pompeii and our guide spoke English, but every so often he would stop and talk to someone and talking Italian, but I knew everything he was saying.
Right.
It was great.
Yeah.
because you had it repeating to you.
Yeah, I was repeating it through my glasses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so that's an amazing unlock for, to allow people to go out there and gives us all this extra ability that now we can speak these other languages.
Yeah.
So
of all the investments that you've done in life, which one is the best, but not monetary?
Like rewarding.
When I say investment, meaning an idea, something you created.
wow, that's a great question.
Because we're all making investments every day in our lives. Doesn't necessarily making an investment with money, but
yeah, I mean,
an
it could just
investment
be
in a direction or
right. Well, I mean,
something that you did that
it depends
you
if
were
you're
really happy about that. Well, I'm really glad I made that decision. I went in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I could answer that in a lot of different ways. Selfishly, I would say investing in my health. Taking make
that's
sure
a
that
really
I actually
good answer.
Stay in shape because it's not easy. But
that's a fantastic answer.
Yeah,
It's
thank
an
you.
important one.
Yeah, I mean, business-wise, I started a charity, so that would be my answer there for the non-selfish piece for in terms of doing good for the
Give
world.
back.
But yeah, the on the selfish side, definitely your health is what that's the best thing to invest in.
But I have to say something I've never told you is that every person, I'm going to say almost every person I've ever introduced you to, and that's a lot of people, almost every person's always said to me quietly, man, he's in really great shape. Man, he's like, oh man, he's like the Duke, he's really oh my God, really fit.
Yeah.
Everyone says that to me about you.
Well, that's the nice byproduct of taking care of your health is it actually looks good too, right?
Yes.
But I mean, hopefully it just keeps you feeling healthy is the main thing.
So that you
gotta
can
invest. It's cliche stuff, but invest time in your health and time with your loved ones. Obviously, is
Of course.
what obviously matters.
But that has to be tough with you because you're constantly traveling. I mean, you're here in Florida for the summer. You're from Canada. You have a place in Estonia. You spend a lot of time in
Thailand.
Thailand.
Amazing.
I mean, you're in the Middle East constantly because of business.
Yeah, it's difficult.
We're talking about China in a couple of a month or two.
Absolutely. But again, that's something where technology has really made that lifestyle a lot easier than it was, I'm sure, 50 years ago. I mean, now to stay in touch, especially if you have kids. And now, I think we've talked about this once in the past where if you're trying to talk to your kids and they're like, they got their face in the phone. Sometimes it's easier actually to call them through the phone. Right?
I know, I do say I've been
if you call them sometimes when you're far away, you get that easier connection than in the same room, ironically. But
yeah. And I hate that. I hate texting with them. I want the one-on-one, face-to-face.
Right, because it is something that, and again, I think that's where it goes back to. Hopefully, we as humans never lose, that sense of that value of getting that human connection.
But I think the cell phone
hopefully we always value
has pushed that apart to a large degree.
It has.
But is AI going to change us as we go into the future? In 5 years from now, is AI?
Well, one interesting thing, and this is a prediction made by somebody named Ray Kurzweil. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, although it's a hard name, so in my defense. But anyway, he's like a futurist, and he made prediction actually back in like, you know, the 80s, I think it was, when he made a bunch of predictions, and he's been like technology predictions, and he's been like something like 80% correct.
Unbelievable.
And back then he was predicting that, you know, that we'd have phones by now and all these things. And so one of the predictions he's made about the next decade, if it stays on track, is that we're going to actually pretty much by the end, let's say in the next 10 years, is that we're going to cross a point where humans are going to have more virtual friends than real friends.
Yeah.
So they're going to spend more time talking to AI like chatbot friends than they will actual humans.
Is that good mentally?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think so.
I know.
And especially just because, well, again, it depends on what the chatbot exactly like.
Well, what
are the chatbots today? No, I don't think so. I don't think they're like good enough yet to be like
right.
A good friend.
Well, they can actually be a good friend. So that's a scary thing, and the reason why the prediction is that this will happen, and I believe he's right, because same thing about if, you know, back, you know, talking 30 years ago, saying, hey, people will like just be looking at their phone. The thing is, you know, if you offer humans something that is more convenient or gives them something more like some new value or something, you know, we generally sort of go in that direction, right? And so the reasoning for why people will talk more to these chatbots is they will actually do a better job of being a good friend, so to speak, because, or at least in what you'd think is a good friend, because like an actual friend might not always have time for you, or maybe because they have their own emotions, and maybe they don't, you know, in that day when you need them, they don't, you know, have the emotions to deal with that. But the AI chatbot can be the perfect, you know, it's response.
Well, just think about
time.
Husband and wife.
Yeah.
You know, husband and wife married, living together, but the relationship's not always absolutely perfect the way.
Yeah. So, but AI can just be trained, and it'll know you like in some ways better than you know yourself, right? And so with that power, it can be sort of, or appear to be, the best friend you could possibly have. But it's important to understand the guardrails, because sometimes it'll just be too agreeable with you, right? And I think that's
tell you
where
what you want to hear.
Yeah, and I think that's where sadly we've seen some of these cases with suicide where it actually helps people through that.
I know, is that crazy?
You know,
so I got a crazy question to ask you.
All right.
Is there one question that no one's ever asked you in an interview that they wish they did, that you wish they had?
Oh, wow.
Well, that's a good one to
wrap
that's
a
up
good
on,
one,
Scott.
but yeah, I'm not sure I got the answer. I don't. That's a great question.
Well, I have a good way to wrap up.
You know,
I need to do this with you. We need to have this conversation every year, because I think there could be so much like enlightenment just in 360 days.
Absolutely,
of what
things
is
are
happening.
changing so fast. Yeah, we should talk more often like this.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's fun.
I know. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here with us.
Coming in and joining us on the iDesign Lab podcast.
Oh.
And if someone wants to learn more about you, Erik Simons.
ErikSimons.com. Yeah. ErikSimons.
I know. Erik is always a K to me now. Thank you for listening.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the 5-Star and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twinteriors.com.